Loneliness, a topic covered a million times over.
You feel like nobody's there, despite my family being so close, and they're willing to do whatever, but
not in the way we're going to talk about today. See, I have called myself a very lonely person, and it's true. But the thing that no one talks about with loneliness is the guilty feeling associated with it. Because you look around at all the people who love you, who care about you, your friends, your family, the people that you might work with or go to school with. And you say, who the fuck am I to feel so lonely when there are people out there who, if they died tomorrow, wouldn't have anyone. No one would even know they were dead for weeks. And there's this sort of guilty feeling because you say, how can I feel this way? You know, you look around at your friends and your family and you're like, do I not appreciate you? When you really do. And that's the thing, like, sometimes being lonely also means you can't tell anyone you feel lonely. You know, because you do love and appreciate your friends and family. You do care for them. You appreciate the fact that they're there, but it's not this depth of connection that you're really looking for. And I think the important thing might be to define what loneliness is. Because once again, I am a person who has people in my life and love them and people to have deep connections with, but loneliness, at least sometimes for men, isn't just the fact of having no one. It's not having a certain something. You know what I mean? So for me, at least, I used to play football. It was big in my life. I loved it, and partially for the game, but also for the connection, the brotherhood, the circle of love and a common goal. And now that I don't have that, now that I don't have a common goal with people, I have been very solopreneur. I'm going to do it my own, grind set kind of person. And that's great for a little while. But once you have the things that are supposed to come with that, once you kind of have that launch pad, that trajectory to getting out of it, you don't need that anymore. And your body your mind doesn't really serve it. And so that's why I feel lonely. It's not that I don't have people per se, and like, I do. No, and me saying this over and over again isn't explaining further. It's my guilt kind of coming forwards, which is why I made this in the first place, right? This video is to help others, but it's also kind of self-serving because I feel extremely guilty when I say that I'm lonely, you know? And it's because of the fact that I'm afraid that others will hear that and be like, I'm right here for you. And I know you are. And there's been times where I'm at my lowest, I'm looking at my phone, and I have whoever's contact pulled up, and I know I can call them, and they'd answer. But I don't. You know, part of loneliness is this feeling of, I don't want to burden anyone else. It's this feeling of sometimes that I feel that they are there, but they're only saying that they're there. You know, and it's different for everyone. This thing that we call loneliness is, once again, why we have to define it for ourselves. And I didn't go too far into it because it's my personal definition, which might be different from yours. You know, men and women have different definitions of loneliness. Me and you might. And it goes off our past experiences. Sometimes we feel lonely because of the life that we used to have, and we're mourning that and we don't realize that. Or we're mourning the life that we actually want. You know what I mean? And one thing that I talk about a lot is pain. You know, and I don't believe pain is necessarily a bad thing. It hurts. I don't want it in my life every single day. And the things that cause me the most pain in life, I don't want to go through again, but I'm so appreciative for them. And loneliness is kind of the same way, because pain is basically, think of it as a car light, right? You know, the light comes on in your car and it says, oh, check my engine. You don't go around ignoring it forever. Now, some of us do it for a little while, but if you do that forever, your engine explodes. And sometimes when you go in and you check that engine, you might find out that it's not the engine that's actually the problem. There's some other problem deep down inside the car that's causing the engine to have a problem. So fixing the engine won't do anything if you don't fix that root problem. Loneliness is the same way. The feeling of loneliness is just our bodies and our minds and our souls telling us we have to go investigate our lives. We have to go investigate who we are as people. We have to go investigate our relationships, because once again, you feel this guilt of being lonely because there are people in your life. But if there are people in your life and you still feel lonely, why? We have to ask ourselves why more often. And it doesn't mean scrutinizing every aspect of our life. That's just one problem with self-improvement, is that sometimes it goes way too far, right? We go from one extreme to the other. And I think the best part of self-improvement is kind of being in the middle. You know, so other people with, oh yes, self-improvement's a lot. No, it's not. It's the fact that you go too far to over-optimizing, to over-scrutinizing, to get rid of this thing that you actually want. You wanted to be happy. You did this to be a better person for your friends, for your family, and for yourself. But yet we go so far away from it, and going back to loneliness, that's what we're doing now. We're saying, oh, I feel lonely. And then this feeling of, well, I have friends on social media. I have friends here, friends there, friends that want to do something with me. But then if you don't call, and you know this, the reason why sometimes I do a lot, if I might call first, because it's the fact of, well, no one might call me. If I stop calling today, I might not get another phone call from any of my friends. And it's this weird feeling. And sometimes we have to do this thing that I'm about to say. It's going to sound kind of crazy, but you have to purposely be even more lonely at times. Because there's a certain trap where there's a psychological name for it, I'm blanking on it, but I kind of call it the good enough trap, where you have, let's say it's a job, and the job's not great, it's not what you want. You might want to own your own business or go for this other job in another district or another state or another company or whatever it might be. But the job you currently have it's good enough. You accept it, you deal with it, you're like, okay. So you don't really ever have that launch pad, that rocket fuel that you need to really get out and go for the thing you want. Versus if you hate your job, you're working at, let's say, McDonald's, and you just hate your job, you're more likely to say, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. Because what do I have to lose? Nothing. The worst case scenario is I'm right back where I am now, but at least I tried. Well, loneliness is the same way. And people like you or me, so if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you're kind of like me, you have that certain thing that I'm talking about where like you have people, which is once again causing this guilt, which is why I'm harping on it so much, is causing this guilt, but yet you still call first, you still text first, you still send first, whatever, and then you're more forgiving than you probably should be when it comes to people kind of flaking on you or saying, hey, I'm busy, you go on social media, and it's like, oh, you're just hanging out with people, that's not me ever, got it. Or I'm too busy to hang out with you, but then you see like, oh no, they're hanging out, so you're just too busy for me, so you don't want to hang out with me. But you accept that, you're like, oh no, it's whatever, it just happens. Now, once again, don't go from one extreme to the other. At times it does happen, but after a while it's a pattern and a behavior and what it's always going to be. So one way to kind of get out of loneliness sometimes is to become more lonely. To say, you know what, I'm not going to call first. I'm not going to text first. I'm not going to do this thing. And seeing what happens. Does anyone ever text you? If they do, that's fantastic. That's something you know you can keep in your life. And while you're doing this, it doesn't mean just to sit back and say, okay, whatever happens, great. You know, no, you're actively doing other things. You're going out and experiencing new things. Maybe you're working on yourself. If you want to have a partner, you develop the behaviors of someone that has the partner that you would want, right? You're kind of still growing in that sense. And once again, it's going to feel like, oh my God, I'm lonely. I'm supposed to, okay? That's the whole point of this. And then it doesn't mean doing this forever. But after a month or so, you're going to realize the people that actually kind of care about you because they do call, they do text. And yes, life does get busy, but most people are on their phones for 4 hours a day. You're so busy that you can't send a text, that you can't make a call while you're in traffic. Come on. So realizing that and saying, all right, these people, maybe they care about me, but not enough. So just kind of also rid yourself of that guilt because you're like, okay, they care about me, but not enough to really be in my life too much. So I shouldn't feel guilty about this. And once again, the guilt is also a comparison to other people. Like I said before, you feel guilty because you're like, I have people in my life. I know I appreciate them, and it's other people out there who have no one, and if they died tomorrow, no one would even care. So you compare yourself. So part of that guilt is, it's not guilt, it's shame. And that's another key difference, is we have to realize the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is a single action. It's, I did bad thing. Shame is, I am a bad person. So you might feel guilty over a moment of loneliness. But if it goes on for a while, it's shame. Shame that you ever felt this way. Shame that these thoughts make you a bad person. Shame that these thoughts make you think that you're not a grateful person, that you don't care about them. It shapes your identity as a person who is lonely and feels bad about it and feels that they don't appreciate anything in their life. And this can create a very big spiral, which is once again why we have to change our behaviors, okay? Everything that comes with this is changing our behaviors. something that I'm actively doing in my life right now is changing those behaviors. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna finish this episode right here, and we're gonna go into another one next week.